Everyone, this is Deadpool Negative. I apologize for the hair. Um, but I thought I'd stop in and I was going to review them separately, but I watched them. I found out they kind of complemented each other a bit. Anyway, what I am talking about is the Doctor Who season premiere and second episode, uh, The Robot Revolution in Lux. Now I'm going to speed run. Now I was going to review each individual episode of Doctor Who last year. I got a few episodes in, and then I had my incident. Put it that way, incident, and I didn't wasn't really in condition to make videos for a very long time. And I have to say, like overall, the season really did peak with Boom. Um, I don't know, like it really ping ponged in very long quality. I would have to say Davies' best episode was Dot and Bubble, but that was still an episode that argued that people who are too wrapped on social media deserve to be murdered. And they're also racist, and they actually have to point that out publicly. That's what that ending is meant to be. Then you've screwed up. But Dot and Bubble was probably the best. I mean, the show began to take on the tone, but there were some interesting things like I thought Rogue was an interesting episode. I thought it was wild that felt like the first time I can remember they actually did a romantic story with a doctor. Only it was with it was a man, and I thought Jonathan Groff did a great job guest starring. I really thought Millie Gibson, while a good actress, the character like there was just something. I mean, I got it was a season where I got where they were going for, but it didn't wasn't particularly entertaining or satisfying. And the payoff with Ruby Sunday, well, on the one hand, it was different from the payoff with Clara. On the other hand, it's like, so that was just red herrings for the sheer sake of it. And also like for insisting this has to be for new audiences, new members. You did a story that was a sequel to an episode that aired literally 50 years ago for your finale. And I thought Nudie Gatwa, well, I think is 10 times better than Jodie Whittaker and much more the Doctor than Jodie Whittaker. I really can't explain like why I found Jodie Whittaker's acting to be so disappointing as a Doctor, like because Gatwa brings back the intensity and sometimes the over the top emotion is can be a like you don't have to like have him cry in every scene. That he can do other things as an actor, but that was better than like Jodie Whittaker's mild annoyance. And just as a quick aside, if you want to see Jodie Whittaker give a good performance, you can watch Toxic Town on Netflix. That's actually a lot better than Adolescence, which is from the same writer. Um, but I'll get to Adolescence in a bit. So, but we're back with a new companion, Belinda Chandra, played by Varada Sethu, who also appeared in Boom. And there is a I would have to say these two episodes are definitely Davies' stories, but it does feel like he's like asking Moffat to give him notes, particularly on the Robot Revolution. Um, and I honestly, if anything, this past season has proved I'm one of those guys who prefers Moffat to Davies. That said, Davies was the right man at the right time 20 years ago. I thought, and I'm not sure Moffat is the guy you call to relaunch. Moffat is the guy you call the guy to keep it going. But anyway, we get Miss Belinda Chandra, played by once again Varada Sethu, who I'd only seen in Boom before that. I know she's been around quite a while, um, and it was nice to see someone who I believe this character is meant to be in her 30s. The actress is, which I appreciated. I mean, we see her being a doctor. Well, actually, not being a doctor, but being a nurse in a hospital and the doctor's looking for some for reasons they haven't disclosed yet. he was just given her name to be. He was given her name, just told that she was important by someone. Again, kind of like a big Moffat vibes here. This episode definitely feels like Stephen Moffat gave a lot of notes on it, but also the things in this episode that Stephen Moffat couldn't have it in him to write. Um, the gag in the episode is, well, the crux of the episode is the fact that when Belinda was about 15 or 16, um, her goofy ass boyfriend Alan named a store after her. And also he said women aren't good in maths in the flashback, which turns out to be an extremely important plot point. Um, so, and in the Robot Revolution, robots, when after a night at the hospital where the doctor accidentally destroys a hospital's power outage, and it's played as a goofy gag. Um, I mean, like, I just watched The Pulse on Netflix. Don't watch it. And that was like the fact that they were a power outage hurricane was such a that's such an important plot to point to that show. God, they waste so many good actors' talent on that thing. That seeing it played for a joke was not funny at all, Mr. Davies. But here's where the episode starts out really creative and fun, and kind of just they take Belinda. They explain like her name's on the star certificate named after her. There's a planet around the star, and it basically worships her as their queen and their god. And so, and I think Sethu does a good job of like, trying to Belinda trying to get like her head around like all the ridiculous stuff that's happening to her. That's one of the things like again, like Belinda's prickly. Belinda doesn't really have time for a lot of shit. She's overworked. She's she like she people say, oh, she's kind of a bitch. Like I don't see her as a bitch. Like she can be really mean. She's a lot meaner person than Ruby, and she's a lot meaner than say um, Clara Oswald or oh God, I'm blanking Martha. At least what we've seen her so far, but she is human and she has feelings. Like I again, like Ruby was a blank slate by design, and Gibson is a good actress, but she's not a great one. So it was kind of like, I mean, with Clara Oswald was similarly very underwritten, also by design, but I thought Jenna Coleman was a fantastic. But I have to say, like, based on these two episodes, Belinda Chandra might become my favorite companion since the show started and has always been Martha. Not always as well written and served by the creators, but I always thought she was the most fun character. And I think Belinda Chandra is different from Martha, but there's just it's really you really have to like see through in action to understand it. Like you could, I mean, if you look on paper, some of the stuff she says and does is not very likable and kind of mean, but in practice, I think the actress brings a lot of nuance to it. So we get this really labored but fun plot where the doctor has actually arrived 6 months earlier due to a plot device, excuse me, time fracture. And he has become the historian of the planet, infiltrated. There's basically a battle between the robots and the humans on the planet. And there's some sort of AI controlling the robots that they've got to go after. And we find out the doctor's lived a whole life in those 6 months, ingratiating himself with the natives of the planet Miss Belinda Chandra. And basically, it's typical chicanery, lots of moving parts. I think there's a great moment where we find out the doctor has basically got a new companion, and this companion dies. And while it's done in a corny way, like they have to have the doctor Shooty Gatwa do that thing with his mouth. Like, stop making him do that. With this companion, Like it feels like we're in the like Belinda got dropped in the middle of another of a Doctor Who serial from the earlier days, and but she dies, and like it's meant to illustrate that why someone like Belinda might not be excited or thrilled by the Doctor. This is something like they kind of leaned hinted at before. Like one of the great moments of the Runaway Bride is when Donna says to the Doctor, "I think you need someone to stop you." And then when they brought Donna back, I thought, wow, that going to be the story? I was like, no, no. Donna thinks the Doctor is so cool and she's so bored without the Doctor, which I always thought was a huge cop out. But in this, but I'll get to that in a little bit. But the big problem with the episode is the ending, or maybe, or should not the ending, the final reveal where the AI is actually Alan, and because of the time fracture, after Alan and Belinda broke up, as Belinda's being kidnapped by the robots, Belinda says, "Oh, Alan, my friend Alan, my ex-boyfriend, I hadn't seen him in years. We broke up. He made this." They went back somehow to like right after they broke up and kidnapped him and put him in there, and he immediately and put him in charge of the planet or made him a side. But here's the thing: like they try to paint Alan as some incel, but the actor plays him as goofy and I don't like this like goofy and awkward. And like, but we're supposed to be just take it for Belinda's word that, oh, you were belittling me. Like all of a sudden, Alan's meant to be like the representation of all shitty incel guys in Britain. You know, the whole thing that adolescence was targeting. I don't really view adolescence as an attack on men as much as it is a hysterical yelp about helicopter parenting. But it does get it's it doesn't work because at one point because we're just meant to assume that Alan is dropped on this wonderful planet, this crazy world with all these robots, and because he plays video games, he immediately turns everything into the whole world into a video game and starts a war for fun. And there is just no build up to that. We don't get enough of their relationship, of Belinda and Alan's relationship, to really see that. Like, Alan just seems awkward and, quite frankly, not a guy that Belinda would ever be into in the begin with. And then we have this incredibly embarrassing moment where first of all, it goes out of the way to explain that Alan does realize he's suffering and is actually pleading the Doctor to set him free. And because of the whatever Deus Ex Machina that fixes everything, the Doctor, watch the episode. Alan is turned into a sperm and an egg, and then that sperm and egg is immediately destroyed by accident. And the Doctor and Belinda laugh at this. And I just wanted to say to Russell, we get the point, man. You've been listening to Neurotic and Bowles Trek, and you've seen all the haters, you've read all the police reports. I had a friends arguing, well, this misogyny is a big deal in UK. Like, and it's like, all I saw with Alan, the way the actor played him, you really did not think this through. Like, if the movie would, like, there's actually a line called Planet of the Incels, which only even doesn't make any sense because there's only one incel here, and technically not an incel, because he had a girlfriend. Like, Alan, it's just the assumption that because Alan was rejected because he plays video games, I mean, he's a bomb waiting to go off. And quite frankly, whether you like it or not, saying shit like that drives people away. Like there was that scene in the Star Beast where it pretty much blew up the entire episode where they're like, well, kid, you're a man, you can't figure out all you had to do was let it go. And I'm like, who is this for? Like Davies tends to write really angry political screeds. I mean, years and years, and It's a Sin are two very difficult to watch, two very angry series, but I think he's fallen in the trap. A lot of British commentators, the Edge actually has no faith in anyone. But I don't understand this need to like just stomp on people to make the point, which makes the second episode so much more bizarre because it's empathetic in the way this episode isn't. Um, that's the bizarre thing. So I'm gonna move over to that, and that's Lux. Now, you may have heard that Lux has gotten a lot of critical acclaim. In fact, my friend Addie Tatum of Bleeding Cool said it was one of the best Doctor episodes of this new era. And I know what you're thinking. Addie Tatum had friends? Yeah, I'm shocked too. But I have to say he was correct. Lux is one of the best things Davies has written probably since, not that he hasn't written good episodes, but like I haven't had a Davies story like really send me in the stratosphere like since it's like Gridlocked. And it's not complex, but it's interesting, and I'll get to it in a minute. They have the same, it has the same social conscience. It kind of has the same um, quote unquote incel driving the plot, but there's something different about it. There's a lot of it, and I'm wondering it's because of it was because of the time it was set that makes it so. I fixed my mic there. Sorry. Anyway, because of the surprise cliffhanger, and oh, by the way, I'm sick of Miss Flood. Anita Dobson is having fun popping out with the one line every episode, but I just do not care who this is, and I wish you would stop. Anyway, they wind up, because Belinda can't get home, and they wind up in 1952 Miami. They can't get home because the day's blocked, and the doctor's not telling her the whole story. Of course, he's not. They can't get back to that day, so they're trying to figure out a way to fix it. But they wind up in 1952 Miami, and this bit that I kind of loved, where like, well, if you're gonna come out there with me, Belinda, we got to get in clothes. And like, I know a lot of people like whine about this being a gay doctor and more flamboyant doctor. But I really like the idea of the doctor saying, wait, I have this whole thing full of clothes that I can change into. Like, I like the idea of the doctor as a clothes horse. It's different. I mean, like, he loves fashion, he loves the look. And here's the thing, like, you're thinking, oh, 1952 Miami, they're going to do a whole thing about racism, and this is going to be like the Chibnall, whether it's like delivered with a fucking thud, and it's not. Segregation is acknowledged, but the entire supporting cast is white people, and they don't encounter any real direct overt racism. I mean, most of the white people they encounter are kind, and the one time there is a racist in the mist, it turns out to be an illusion or a fake out. And that's what I thought that was pretty interesting. That I was really like, oh, he's going to stick it to 70 years to Miami 70 years ago, and he doesn't. They just acknowledge it, and it's not like at the end of the episode he says, well, we're still not welcome around here. Like the doctor says, because he and Chandler are not white. He and Belinda are not white. But other than that, I mean, that's kind of the way you do it without making the audience feel like their fingers being wagged at them. I was kind of genuinely shocked that he went in that direction. This is also a continuation of the gods, the sort of weird elder gods that have been released as the result of the the Giggle, the toy maker, Sutek. Um, it's sort of in a way, it's almost a remake of the musical episode last season. Only I enjoyed that episode. I mean, but it was also kind of light. I mean, they just the last 5 minutes are just a musical number. But I like the idea of like the humans represented by the Beatles going back in time, like being able to like the human desire to create and to make music is still important enough that it breaks through an evil god's barrier. This god is different, like the musical god whose name I cannot recall right now. This god Lux, who takes the form of an animated character voiced by an incredibly into it Alan Cumming. He is having a blast. A very like this is kind of a story Davies has had in his back pocket for years, and he was just waiting for the technology to catch up with it. Much like Dot and Bubble. I mean, as much many reservations I have with Dot and Bubble, that episode looked technically fantastic, and this feels like a Doctor Who frame Roger Rabbit, but he's even more dimensional. He's even better looking. So he's this cartoon character, Meister Ringling, who's possessed by Lux, the god of light. And what happened? But he's interesting. He's also kind of parasitic, but he's also like all he wants is to exist. Like basically he possesses a bunch of people. They don't really explain why he needed to possess all those people. Like the implication is like he wanted to use it to threaten the man. The projectionist. What he does is the projectionist he takes over the theater. It's closed because all those people disappeared in it. And the projectionist, played by an actor, it was interesting, a name actor that, they didn't even like announce his appearance in the movie. I mean, in the show, like in the Chibnall area. Look who's going to guest star. Like, okay, but he's a really great performance. I'm not going to give the actor's name away. What he does is he uses his power to create an illusion of the guy's wife who died years ago. And he basically, in exchange for creating this version of his wife that he can interact with, he makes him run the projector all day and lets him absorb light. And like Lux does evil things, but it's more like a parasitic organism as opposed to someone or something that's genuinely spiteful, because at the end of the episode he gets what he wants, unlike the others. So but there's also the big centerpiece of the episode, which is, well, this is interesting. There was a kind of like the animated gag you see in the trailers that lasts literally 2 minutes. The Doctor and Belinda being animated. It's really, really, but it's also like it helps us like. Well, that's another thing. It also helps us like really burn through the characterization but it's hilarious like how they escape from being animated. I'm not going to spoil it, but also, you know, Davies isn't dragging out like the Doctor keeping stuff from Belinda, because they wind up having to confess their darkest fears to make themselves more dimensional and escape being animated, which I thought was pretty clever. So like they're not exactly keeping secrets from each other anymore by the end of that scene. And then something else happens, and I'm sure everyone's talking about it. And I'm not going to talk about it here. I think I may create a separate video about it because I want to get into like I was not offended or hurt or anything by what happens. A lot of people are. I've seen a lot of people saying, "Well, this is what they fans want to be like." That's not exactly what Davies is saying or what Davies is doing. I think a lot of people are kind of missing the fact that like Lux is using the Doctor's subconscious against him in this in when he turns the cameras on him. Like people don't realize like what the doc like. I don't know, but it because like I don't want to spoil it because like I really want you to watch the episode first before we watch. Like you're like what, and then I'm like oh. I have to say, is some really good acting from Sethu and Gatwa once they realized that they wind up in a room with some people that recognize them. I'll put it that way. And they realize these people, I mean, there's also a bit where like, there's a where they say what the there's also a bit where like, like, oh, yeah, it kind of bugs in that everyone talks about that episode of Doctor Who. I'll just say like that's not even my favorite Stephen Moffat episode of Doctor Who. But I'm gonna skip that part. And what I liked about this episode more than Robot Revolution, like in Robot Revolution, like Belinda seemed to be just reacting to what the doctor was telling her to get through the story. And in Lux, both of them seem to be on their feet thinking. Both of them seem to have a back and forth. With Ruby Sunday, there wasn't a lot. There wasn't a lot. I feel like they were a team. I thought Ruby was more like a low grade Watson, the Doctor Sherlock, except for 73 Yards, which is I don't like that episode. Just it's just depressing. Um, that's another thing. Like, if the actor's not going to be available, why write so many? Why write a whole quarter of your season around that? Now, just like push it back until he is available. But that's another story. But what they come up with a way to beat Lux, which I thought was actually kind of, but it's the both of them working in tandem. But what I found fascinating is, and I'm not going to spoil it exactly, was the way Alan was portrayed and the projectionist was portrayed. Both of them are victims. Both of them are willing participants. Both of them are the victims of the entities. Both of them are willing participants. Alan is given this whole electronic playground, because he's a sociopath. He and the projectionist just wants to see his wife, so he enables Lux's behavior, but the projectionist is allowed to have a redemptive arc. Again, this is a veteran British actor, very good in the role. In fact, what's interesting is like it's implied he dies, but they don't show it, so it's implied there's a slim possibility he may have survived. And I just thought it was fascinating that like Davies can have empathy for a man who existed 74 years ago, but he can't have empathy for anybody who exists now. And that says a lot about him, and not a lot of it good. But do I recommend these episodes? Well, I recommend Robot Revolution just for the plot points but Lux, I mean, I've watched it 4 times already. So yes, I recommend Lux. It's fun. It's about the doctor and his companion thinking their way out of the situation. I think Varada Sethu is fantastic. Like because especially in Lux, because it's about her realizing being terrified of what the doctor does, and also realizing its importance. And I thought that was I was just impressed that they got through that arc in just one episode. And again, the midsection, like she says things that are mean, but she is capable of empathy and understanding. And I gotta tell you, Varda Sethu, when they glam her up for the 1952 for Lux, she is a stunningly pretty woman, like the prettiest companion since Jenna Coleman, quite frankly. Sorry, Dan. Sorry. Um, but I really have a lot of hope for her going forward. I just like I like how how she's able to show the range. Like be she does she's mean, but she can also be human. And which like there's just a scene when she's confronted with the reality of what the doctor goes through every day and the kind of things he winds up going against. It's fascinating. And like I said, I don't know if it'll be sooner or later. I am going to come up. I'm going to do a separate thing on the actual big moment in the episode that's got everybody talking. But for now, I would definitely watch Robot Revolution just for the setup, but watch Lux because it's a great fucking episode of Doctor Who. That's all for now, and I will talk to you later.